We'll get started. So we're going to get started in a reclined butterfly of some sort. I'm going to use a bolster just because I'm going to use it for later. And I'm going to put a block under the bolster. So when we move into this pose, it's more target area. It's less about particular pose. And so this might be 2 blocks, it might be no props, but our main goal is to get into a reclined butterfly. Reclined butterfly, 3 minutes. Find your way onto your back with or without your props. Soles of the feet are together, palms open. Close the eyes. And just take a few moments to rest here. Let the jaw slack. Let the eyes melt into their sockets. And feel the weight of your body grounding down. And so if you've not done yin before, these are mostly postures on the ground. And the intensity is added by time, we're in the poses for longer, and weight, allowing gravity to draw our bones down. And so in this pose, you might notice how gravity has this pull on the bones, but really to begin to get a pull into the joints. Maybe feel this in the hip joints. And so a pose that may be very relaxing for a few breaths might change its intensity for, say, 2 or 3 minutes. And so as you close the eyes, just really try to tune inward. And it may be challenging. You may have distractions in the house or distractions in the body. But know that it's a practice, so you may have to come back as many times as you need. Start back over the practice, start back over the breath, until you feel, maybe even just get a moment, a sort of glimpse of being present. So in this moment, find your breath. Take an inhale through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Exhale out the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale for 4. And exhale for 4. Continue your breath. Inhale. And exhale. Now, as you're taking your even breaths, you might have added or removed props from under the knees, depending on how you're feeling. And you're just using the breath to slow down and bring your attention. All right. From here, blink your eyes open. Take your hands to the outer knees, guide them together. Interlace your fingers, reach your arms up, stretch back, maybe yawn. And then you're going to roll to your right side and press yourself up to seated. Now when you get to your right side, notice I'm still on my right side, nothing else has changed. My legs are staggered and I'm going to move my hip up against this bolster. If it's not a bolster, no big deal. You could do this with 2 blocks or even without props, which I'm going to demo here. But you're going to take a hand on either side of the props or imaginary props behind you. Lift your chest, find length. Your legs are going to be a little bit staggered. And then come down onto your forearms, framing either the blocks, the bolster, the blankets, or just pretending. Pull your chest forward, find length. And if you have low back sensitivities, the knees will come a little closer together. Otherwise, you can stagger the legs a little further apart. And then you might lower even further to bring your right ear down onto the props. So we'll be here again 3 minutes. A nice deer twist. So these staggered legs are called deer legs. And we're just creating a twist with it. You might even stay lifted as I am here. Now it's more about target area and less about particular pose. So if this deer twist is not for you, then take any version of a twist that is. Yin practices sometimes are specific to the meridian lines of the body. So today the meridian lines that I'm working are the spleen and stomach. So we'll work through some twists, we'll work through the top of the thighs. And we'll just notice how that activates maybe digestion or even just our ability to digest experiences, circumstance. Maybe you're going a little bit deeper, resting on your props. Or you can always back off if that feels too much. About halfway through this pose. So see if you can connect to your breath. Just let the breath take on that nice even pattern. You don't have to count it if you don't want to. I did 4 and 4 in the first round. But just see if you can intuitively feel that the inhale is equal in length to the exhale. Some of you may be turning. If you're on one ear, maybe turn to the other ear. So maybe left ear is down. Press yourself up, slide your hands back. So the legs are still in deer. You're just simply going to turn to face the front of your mat so that your hips are against those props or behind you. And then rotate to the left so your legs are in deer on this side. So again, the legs are staggered. They might eventually be more stacked. It just depends on you. Put a hand on either side of the props behind you, whether they be blocks, bolster, blankets, or even no props. Pull your chest forward, lengthen. And then you can even stay here or just start to lower down onto your props. We're here 3 minutes again. What's nice about the timer is that the amount of time is the same on both sides. So one of the things you may notice through your practice is one side feels like it just takes forever and the other side just flies by. So what's the difference of that? It's not the actual time, it's the same. The timer tells us so. It's just our perception of it. So what makes it feel different? Is it an injury? Is it the mind wandering? And so what might make this pose or this sequence challenging is not necessarily the poses themselves, but more training the meditative mind, staying present, becoming the observer, finding yourself more responsive, less reactive. You might have your left ear or right ear down. So maybe it might be on your forehead and a little lifted. but we've got 90 seconds left. So decide what makes sense for you to make a change or stay as you are. Continue your even breathing, Samavritti. About 5 cycles of breath left. All right, go ahead and press yourself back upright, move slow. Turn to face the front of your mat. Now everyone's gonna be a little bit different. So I have blocks, so I'm gonna demo with these first, but you might end up doing this flat on your back without any props. So the deer legs, in case you were unclear, is one leg almost looks like pigeon, the other leg looks like it's in half hero behind you. So we're gonna take those legs. So the front leg is gonna be in that pigeon leg pose, the left leg is gonna be in the reclined hero. I happen to have props. What you might do is you might just shift back, lift the hips and lengthen the target area, stretching that top left thigh. Some of you will be able to lower down onto your props like a 2-block heart opener, stretching that front thigh. And you can move into sort of the reclined deer legs. If you don't have props or this is not comfortable for you, then you'll simply lie on your back. Feet are on the edges of the mat and you'll windshield wiper your knees. And then you can drop the knees to the right and get that same stretch on the left side. And some of you might even add right foot on left knee. So again, target area, more important than specific pose. But I'm gonna do the 2-block version of the reclined deer. And we're here for 3 minutes again. So again, time is one of the things that is a huge element in our practice. Remember that deeper isn't necessarily better, it's relative. You want to find a place that you can maintain so that you're not trying to back out of. It's not uncomfortable in a way that feels like it's going to create an injury. And then it's a great opportunity to bring your breath in and come back to this meditative mind. And so whatever pose you've chosen, after a few breaths, just sort of commit to stillness wherever you're at. And let's see if we can train our meditative mind in this pose just to seek out sensation or anything that's happening in the physical body, the Anamaya Kosha. And so you might notice what parts of you are touching the earth, maybe the top of the foot or the shin, maybe parts of the hands or the feet. And then notice the sensation of that skin against either the mat or your clothes or the air. Observe the joints. And if you were to pass over them, would they be warm with inflammation? Would they be more calm and relaxed? If there is a sensation, does it have a texture, a color? Does it create a memory? So see if for the last half of this pose, we've got about a minute left. Just observe through the sensory body, the sense of touch. What do you experience? And if the mind wanders, no big deal, just observe it, notice where it went, maybe put a label on it. Oh, I was thinking again. I went to the future. I was in the past. And just come right back to the present, the breath, the body, and any physical sensation. All right, make your way to side two, whatever version of the pose you took. Again, our target is the top of the thigh. So switching to side two. Move into this version of deer legs or any version of a half reclined hero or windshield wiper legs. And we're here for 3 minutes again. And so let's stay with the Anamaya approach to the physical body. Close the eyes wherever you are. And just observe, is the sensation the same on this side? Is the intensity the same? Does it stay the same amount of time? And if there is no sensation, how can you deepen the pose? Maybe you remove these props or come into a full reclined hero. Or can you seek out areas of the skin that you can't sort of see with the mind's eye? What about the backs of the arms or in between the toes? Are there any parts of your skin that feel hidden to you? Can you find them? Trace the body. And it's okay to feel some discomfort. Yin is more about pushing your edge. And so it's okay if something feels like you need to breathe through it, or it takes you time to relax. But remember, we're not trying to relax or create space in the knees in a way that might cause an injury. So if you feel it on the top thigh as a dull ache, fine. If you feel it as pain in your knee or sensation in your lower back like a nerve, then that's when you want to back off. We're here about 1 more minute, about 10 breaths. All right, so slowly back yourself out of your pose. As you come out of this, we're going to move into some dragon lunges, but that's not going to be for everyone's knees. So I'm going to just demo an alternative pose for you. So if taking the dragon lunges is not for you, you might find a prop, even like a foam roll or a pillow will work if you don't have a block for under the back. And you can pull one knee in and move into the top thigh that way. So you may decide to move into your alternative version this way. Otherwise, we're going to set up for some dragon lunges. And I personally like a blanket under my knees. I just need that extra padding. And I like to have props handy. This could even be sort of books or anything that you have nearby. But we're going to take our leg. I'm going to demo first and then we'll move into it. I'm going to take my right leg wider than my hand. So it's a wider lunge. And I might stay here. I might eventually end up on my forearms. But through this 4 minutes, so we're going to be here longer, you might end up turning your toes out. You can turn to face the leg, and you might even reach for that back ankle. So we've got plenty of time to get here. So go ahead and find your lunge. We'll change our timer to 4 minutes. And I'll kind of give you timings along the way. All right, so that you know where we're at. So again, take a wide lunge, just so I can turn a little bit more so you can see me. And everyone's different, so don't get too caught up in the particulars of it. The target is stretching the top of the thigh, getting into the abdomen and adding your twists. Now, if you find it challenging to stay present with this, no big deal, it happens. Just when you need, turn. This is pretty intense, so this may be as deep as you take it. We're about a minute in. And so when we find a balance in these two meridians, stomach and spleen, we move away from anxiety and more into a state of calmness. But you may not notice that now. I find a lot of times in this pose, we find the anxiety and it's very hard to overcome that into the calmness. So how can you create space around something that feels uncomfortable? It may mean that you don't go in as deep. Less is more in this case. We're almost halfway through the pose. We're coming up on 2 minutes shortly. I find a lot of times when I teach these particular practices, it's really hard for students to find an ability to relax. The nervous system might be telling you to back out of the pose. You might have some resistance. So go with it. You most likely won't feel comfortable the first time around. Take your time. You've got about 90 seconds left. Some of you might be turning towards your bent leg. You can maybe press that thigh away. As we approach our last 60 seconds, some of you may reach for that back ankle. But again, these are all options. You can also windshield wiper the legs on your back as another option. And here, 5 more breaths, 30 seconds. And release. Okay, move slow out of your pose. Take your time. And then just take a rebound. So sit for a moment or lie down, close your eyes, and just feel how the body feels after that pose. Is there warmth now? Is there circulation? Is there more awareness to one leg versus the other? And then blink your eyes open and we'll move to side two. So again, target area. We're going to move into that dragon lunge unless something else is working for you. And we're there 4 minutes. So probably now you're realizing you don't want to go as deep as you can right away. Timer's already going. And again, deeper isn't necessarily better. If you're really hyper flexible, your job might be to train yourself not to go in as deep as you'd like. And slowing the breath down. And using this pose to get into our next layer, the pranamaya kosha. So down from the physical body, the next subtle body is moving into the pranic layer. And so see if those areas that you feel rigidity or resistance, can you create space around them? Can you breathe into those spaces? And imagine that they could open a little bit more. You're more than a minute in. You can be on palms or forearms, whatever makes sense for you. Or you flip this to your back. So many times if a pose doesn't feel right, you just flip it over to a different orientation, and that may work better in your body. All right, coming up on halfway through, 2 minutes in. Really breathe into it. Notice how this pose can become very intense. So it's not what we might think of a restorative class. We definitely have to use that meditative mind to work through it. You can think of this as another form of tapas. Moving through that pain or discomfort, find that purification. All right, we have about a minute left. I encourage you to notice how you're feeling in these poses. You don't have to know why or the what, just observe. Do you feel anxious? Do you feel relaxed? Are you able to get into the breath? Does the mind wander? What's happening with those chitta vrittis, those whirlings of the mind? All right, slowly unwind. Take your time. Rebound again, so just have a seat or do something that wasn't that pose. Allow yourself a chance to relax. And then we're going to move into pigeon pose or sleeping swan. So I like to take my blanket. You don't have to use it. I just happen to have it here. And I'm going to slide the right leg up, left leg back. And I'm just using that blanket under the front hip and back thigh. This can be thread the needle or any version, maybe even single or double pigeon if you prefer. We'll go back down to 3-minute holds. All right. All right, so continue to close the eyes wherever you're at. Start with the pranic body again, that pranamaya kosha. Can you send the breath to all parts of the body, just like you tried to find all parts of the skin with sensation? Can you find all parts of the skin with the breath? Where are you missing? If you find that the body starts to relax, you don't need those props, you can always move them away. So sometimes you'll hear people say that in real yin, we don't use props. But my stance on it is real bodies need all kinds of stuff. So sometimes we use props in order to allow gravity to set in a comfortable way. And then other times we don't need them, and it can be relative to the person, relative to the day. And so you're always thinking about that target area. How are you getting into that pose in a way that feels safe for you, that you can stress the joints in a healthy way? We've got about 60 seconds left here. Okay, go ahead and slowly come out, move to your second side, whether it be pigeon or thread the needle, whatever you were taking. And then we're here again for 3 minutes. All right, now close the eyes again. Move through your physical body, that Annamaya Kosha. Move through the pranic body, that Pranamaya Kosha. And then start to observe the field of the mind. And so just observe it as if you're watching a play. Watch your thoughts without getting involved. Where do those thoughts go? What is that play about? That play like a series of commercials just changing very quickly? Do you stay with one thought for a long time? Are the thoughts positive or negative? Future or past? So see if you can learn to be the witness, not the judge, just the observer of any thoughts that come to mind. And again, you can create that separation. So as soon as the thought is there, you label it. It creates a space between you and that thought. And then you observe the next thought. We're about halfway through this pose. Continue to observe the mind. Manamaya kosha. The last 5 breaths. All right. Go ahead and bring yourself out of your pose and find child's pose as a rebound. Just rest. And then I'm going to give you a couple of options for our next pose. Okay, so a couple of options. Let me move my little meditation chair out of the way. Okay, so a couple of options for the next pose. So I'm not going to do this first option. This is the pose, but I'm going to do something at the wall. So coming up from child's pose, the knees are wide, you're sitting on your feet. You can stay here if you'd like. But moving into saddle, which is similar to reclined hero, but the knees are a little bit wider. And so you could shift back. You could use a couple of blocks, a bolster, no props. So this is our pose, saddle pose. But for me, this isn't really my pose. And so I'm going to take King Arthur at the wall instead. You can also lie on your belly, reach for an ankle or anything where you're going to stretch the top thigh and foot. So if you're like me and you're going to use the wall, just put your knee on a surface, foot up the wall. You can even use a chair if you'd like. And then hands can be on the floor, the blocks, or the thigh, whatever you'd like. So go ahead and get yourself set up. Good news, we won't be here 3.5 minutes. We'll do 3 minutes total. So we'll do 1.5 minutes per side if you're doing something like I am with a side. All right, so find your pose, either King Arthur like I'm in, or saddle or reclined hero. We'll be here 90 seconds and then switch if you're doing something that has sides. Or you can even be in pigeon pose, reach for the back ankle, anything that's going to get into this top thigh. Everyone's a little bit different. Normally I'm not this open in this pose, but I did a whole bunch of stretches for my quads and hip flexors a couple days ago, so this feels actually pretty open. If you're at the wall and the foot is uncomfortable, sometimes you have a little towel or a little prop that you can put between your foot and the wall. 4 or 5 breaths left. Okay, so if you're doing something with a side, gently switch to side 2. Be careful that you don't torque the knee coming out of your pose. And then move to side 2 if you're doing King Arthur or something that was one-sided. Okay, 90 seconds again. Just find your breath. Notice how you're feeling. So again, we are in spleen and stomach. We're trying to balance that anxiety into calm. But you may not feel calm. You may feel more anxious. You may feel like you're having a really hard time relaxing into the pose. So think about when you're highly stressed. You don't sort of just relax immediately. And so that is sort of how your body is feeling. If you're finding it hard to come in and out of the poses, you're having to activate the breath. See how much of that is your nervous system, and then notice sort of watching your thoughts, that manamaya kosha. When you start to feel anxious and you want to jump out of the pose, what are the thoughts? So start to notice and observe. You've got just a couple breaths left. Okay, so go ahead and come out of that. You can come back to your mat and have a seat. Get myself set up here. And we're going to do a split leg stretch. You can fold up your blanket if you have one, have a seat on it. Move my stuff back here. Okay. And we're going to take our legs out to the side. So a nice dragonfly or a upavishta. And as you take your legs out to the side, if you happen to have a wall, you might even do legs up the wall and split. If you have props, go ahead and grab your props. We're going to do 4 minutes, but because we're adding some stuff in. Finding your way into your pose. Stretching inner thighs in some fashion. If it's not this wide stretch, you might be in butterfly or anything else that's targeting the inner thighs. But we're going to add some twists to this as well, possibly. Let the body surrender. If you have hamstring sensitivities, maybe you don't go into this pose as deep. Maybe take other options like moving through butterfly. About 5 or 6 breaths here, and then we're going to add a little bit of a twist. If a twist does not make sense for your pose, then you'll just stay where you're at for those remaining 2 minutes. Okay, so if this pose is reasonable for you, what I'm doing is I'm backing out of the pose some, and I'm turning to face my right leg. We want to think of this like a twist. And I have props, so I'm just going to put my props on either side of my right leg and lift the chest. And this might be enough. I'm in a little bit of a twist facing the right leg. Or you might start to lower down and taking a bit more of a twist. You can even reach for that outer leg. So adding a little bit of a twist to our pose. We won't be here long, just another 5 breaths. And each of these poses really could be 5 minutes on their own. So this is just sort of like a taster. Go ahead and come up if you're doing that twist and do the other side for our last minute. All right, go ahead and bring yourself up. And then we've got one last pose. We'll be there just a little bit of time, but one pose and then we'll move into Shavasana. So get yourself set up on your back comfortably. If you have a strap or a towel or anything you'd like, grab that. I'm going to loop up my strap just because we're going to be in the pose a little while and I don't feel like holding it. So if you have a strap, feel free to loop it. You take the tail under the bar and then over the bar. I'm just going to do this so I don't have to hold it. You can absolutely hold it. I'm going to take this around my body. I'm going to have this right up at my ribs. And then I'm going to line my back and take my right leg to the ceiling. This is way too long, so I'm going to tighten it up. If you don't have a strap, you can just hold your leg, or you can just hold your strap if it doesn't move. We'll get started. So this is part 1, just stretching the hamstrings on the right leg. And I'll get our timer going. And we'll be here, let's say 1.5 minutes per pose to finish out. And just close the eyes, see if you can be in a place where you can rest. And see if you can move past the field of the mind, where it's the mind chatter, not Manamaya Kosha. Moving to more the Vijnamaya Kosha, and sort of that intuitive higher mind thought. So have there been times today when you have sort of intuitively made different choices than what I gave you? A different pose, a different rest, different amount of time. Start to just observe those imprints on your mind that are more a result of your intuition, of your higher mind. In a moment when this timer goes off, we're going to take the leg out to the right. I happen to have a block here next to me just so I don't overdo my stretch personally. You can have a blanket. If you have a wall or a piece of furniture near you, sometimes it's nice to rest on that furniture. You want to get inner thighs. So opening up to the right, but in a healthy way for you. Again, these poses will be 90 seconds, and this is our last physical series of postures. Draw your attention back in. What's stronger right now, your higher mind or your lower mind? Your intuition or the chatter of the mind? Both are fine, just be the observer. Slowly come to center and then cross that leg over. So it can stay at a diagonal. You can cross it all the way over into a twist. Remember, the twists are going to get into that stomach meridian line. Take any version of a twist. If it's not the straight leg version, you can bend your knee and take any other version of a twist you'd like. Well, this will be the last of our series on this right side, and then we'll finish with our left. Feel free to use props if you'd like. Gravity take over so you can relax a little more. Bring your leg up. Finish with side two. Put your left foot into the strap. Lower your right leg down. Or any version of your hamstring stretch. If you're having any issue in your hamstrings, you're overstretching, you can bend the knees some. You don't have to go into this as deep. As I start to speak a little less now, see if you can really quiet yourself down. Keep sending the attention in. Open to the left, stretch the inner thighs or move into an inner thigh stretch for you. And your last breath or two. All right, let's finish. Cross the leg over, take your twist, whatever version of it you're taking. My hope is that by now you're a little bit more relaxed or a little bit more into the body, but even if you're not, that's okay. So your last couple breaths. Okay. Bring yourself out of your pose, and we will end with Shavasana. So I'll set the timer so that we know that we're here the right amount of time. I'm going to make it a real short Shavasana, so we're just going to do 2 minutes. Just enough time to sort of feel the experience of your practice. So find your way into a Shavasana of choice. It can even be legs at the wall. Get comfortable, relaxed. Really see if you can feel all those layers, all those sheaths of the body at once. Connecting to your true center, your true self. That Anandamaya Kosha, or your bliss body. Shavasana. Start to wiggle fingers and toes. Arms overhead, maybe a yaw. Bend your knees, make your way onto your side. And slowly press yourself upright to seated. As you get to your seat, lift your chest, bow your head. Namaste.